People trust David Muir as the face of ABC News. He has been through some tough times, but nothing like this. What shocking news has broken his fans' hearts and made them wonder what will happen next for him? Watch to find out the story behind the news and the surprising turn in the life of one of the most well-known and respected writers in the United States. There is a lot of talk that the ABC News journalist might be leaving the network soon. That David Muir is leaving ABC News after more than 20 years has led many people to think this. Muir is a famous writer who has won an Emmy and is the host of ABC World News Tonight since 2014, when he took over for Diane Sawyer. Muir is known for his in-depth reporting, and he has covered big international events like the Fukushima nuclear crisis and war zones like Afghanistan and Ukraine. A YouTube movie that talked about David Muir's future with the BC started the rumors that he was leaving the network. But the video's description says that at least some of its material was made by AI, and sound and video were digitally edited in big ways, which makes it less reliable as a source. Fans who follow Muir on social media sites like Instagram and X have also noticed that he hasn't talked about leaving. Things have gone as planned. This might be because Muir wasn't on World News Tonight in early August 2024, so Whit Johnson and Lindsay Davis, who were on Weekend, came in. Muir, on the other hand, was just on summer break. He shared bits and pieces of his trips on social media, such as pictures from his time in Italy. Also, Harris Faulkner missed a few shows at Fox News, which made people think she might be quitting the network. But nothing ever turned out to be true. David Muir has a great image at ABC because of how hard he works as a reporter. But today we're going to show you some things about his life that you may not have known. In 1976, just as nightly news shows were becoming more famous, a young reporter from Boston made history. Barbara Walters, who is one of the most recognized faces on American TV, was the first woman to host a nightly news show at a time when most Americans got their news from the three networks. At the same time, other networks started hiring people like Tom Brokaw, Walter Cronkite, and Dan Rather, who would go on to become well-known newscasters. On this list was David Muir's goal when he became the new lead anchor for ABC's World News Tonight in 2014. He did not let us down. The show got so many viewers in 2020 that the Associated Press named Muir Broadcast Television Star of the Summer. He is popular with a lot of people, not just older people who still watch every night. The Washington Post said that the show with Muir has a lot of watchers between the ages of 25 and 54. Also, parts like a chat with Bill and Melinda Gates got more than 500,000 views on social media sites like Instagram. Muir told the New York Times, "This is without a doubt my dream job. This dream has turned into a very successful fact." David Muir started on his way to becoming a reporter when he was 12 years old. As a child, Muir said, "I remember watching the news and hoping that one day I would be lucky enough to have a job that would take me to faraway places." He especially watched the Syracuse Nightly News, which was hosted by Ron Curtis. This is what the New York Times says Muir wrote to Curtis and asked how to start a business telling news on TV. Curtis responded that there is a lot of competition in TV news. The right person can always come in. You might be it. The next thing Muir did was call his station, WTVH, and ask for a job. He even worked as an intern over the Christmas break. During the summer, the staff used pencil to draw a picture of his growth on the wall of the office. As a high school student, Muir also did interviews. Reports say that videos of Muir doing interviews at this age show him with braces on and a new Kids on the Block haircut. But even though Muir had a goofy voice, she controlled the screen with a ridiculously polished and fun attitude. Heather Rich Puchta, who had known Muir for a long time, said that he always knew he was going to be in New York City. He would say, "I'm going to be the next Dan," rather he knew. David Muir speaks perfect Spanish, which may come as a surprise. He jumped at the chance to study abroad at the University of Salamanca in Spain during college, where he fully immersed himself in the language and culture. As a young reporter-to-be, this culture experience helped me get ready for a future job where I would travel to find stories. Muir also told the group that studying abroad would give her a break from schoolwork and the chance to try something new by learning a language and visiting a small part of the world she had never thought she would call home for a short time. He picked the university because of its unique appeal, given its age and beauty. I also knew Spanish well because I had studied it since high school. David Muir began as an intern at Syracuse's WTVH-TV and later got his first full-time job as a reporter. Muir learned one of the most important lessons of his life there. Muir told the Washington Post that when a seasoned writer saw that he was having trouble with a story, they gave him some advice. As Muir says, the top worker told him, "Well, to get the story, you just have to go out and get it." That makes sense, right? On the other hand, Muir agreed that the advice to leave the office, get in the car, and go to the story was useful. The Associated Press gave Muir awards for Best Newspaper Reporting and Best TV Interview while he was working as a reporter in Syracuse. Next, Muir got a job as a reporter for WCVB-TV in Boston. The Associated Press again gave him good marks for his work. Muir said that his trip to New Orleans to report on Hurricane Katrina changed him forever. In an interview, he talked about how he had seen poor people screaming for help from the safety of a hire car. "I remember wanting to slouch down in the back seat because it felt like I was invading their pain," Muir said. Still, no matter how hard it is or how bad the pain is that you're seeing, the camera lens in the window will give them a voice. David Muir got the biggest boost of his career in 2014 when he was named show host of BC's World News Tonight. He had big shoes to fill because the famous writer Diane Sawyer had been his boss right before him. Before that, from 2011 to 2013, Muir was the weekend host of BC World News with David Muir. In an interview during those years, he said, "I often say that my job is to keep Diane's chair warm 2 days a week, and that was an honor." James Goldstone, head of BC News, talked about why Muir eventually took Sawyer's old seat. Goldstone said in an interview that when Diane said she was ready to step down, it wasn't really a choice. The boss also said that Muir, who was only 40 years old at the time, was ready, and he slid into the chair. He thought Muir was the reason so many people watched. Goldstone said that he has a lot of understanding and a natural optimism. One example is America Strong, Muir's last series. In the section, Muir meets and sometimes returns to people who are brave or who make you feel good in some other way. David Muir's time at ABC News has been nothing short of amazing, and many people admire him for it. But no one, not even David, knew what was going to happen next. It was something strange and scary. David Muir seemed to be having a great time, especially before he hosted this year's presidential debate. But not long after the event, shocking and sad news came out. People who watched his show had dropped by an amazing 12%. Everyone was shocked by this drop and wanted to know what could have caused such a big drop. It looks like David Muir didn't get any new friends when he was in charge of the presidential debate. In fact, his performance, which got a lot of bad reviews, seems to have killed the numbers. Many conservatives said the debate wasn't fair because Muir and co-moderator Lindsay Davis checked facts 5 times for former President Trump, but never corrected Vice President Kamala Harris. During one of the fact checks on Trump, Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America even called for Davis to be corrected after making a claim about abortion during the discussion that they said was 100% false. About 67 million people watched the ABC News debate, but the network has had nothing but trouble since then. Megan pointed out that ABC News is in a tailspin right now because of all the bad comments about that debate. People with good morals know what they did and how unfair and biased it was. Along with the shocking claims of journalism misconduct from a supposed whistleblower, viewers seem to be expressing their anger with their remotes. 6.7% of people watched Muir's World News tonight. 7 million people watched in the 3 days after the discussion, which is about 1 million less than he was getting before the event. The show is still the most watched evening news show on broadcast TV, but its ratings dropped by 12%, which was more than the drops seen by CBS Evening News and NBC Nightly News during the same time period. It's not clear if Trump fans have stopped watching ABC's news show after the debate, but the former president has called it unfair. Regarding several comments Harris made, Trump told Fox News that he thought Harris should have had them checked out. And David Muir, who I no longer respect, should have asked each of them a question. Trump said last week that everyone no longer respects him. He went on, it was so unfair. It was one player against three. In an interview after the debate, Davis said that the CNN debate in June, which went badly for President Biden, affected how she checked facts about Trump. Muir went on another ABC show to talk about the debate, maybe because he knew the backlash wasn't going away anytime soon. He talked about the importance of the work he and his co-moderator Lindsay Davis did with Reaper and Consuelos on Live with Kelly and Mark. He is known to be friends with both of them. John Muir said, "I think it is our duty to ask about the things that America cares about. Let's talk about money. Are things better now than they were 4 years ago? Getting in? What are you going to do about the border? Why did you wait so long to do something at the border?" Questions like that come up all the time. Rights to reproduce. Afghanistan. Do you have to do anything? A smooth change of power before the next election? All of these things are really important. What's important in this day and age? In the end, Muir thought that any judgment was pointless. This is what I will say. All the talk about who won the argument after the fact. Do you think the moderators won or lost? It's just noise. He also said, "You all know that, remember that you all have power." A writer found it funny that Muir's tone and message were so serious. She joked that he was just playing it safe. That was what I said. He lost 12% of the vote since the discussion. So that was a clean sweep in aisle 7. ABC News can see that he is falling fast. The host of the Rubin Report, Rubin, said that the interview only made Muir and the network look worse. This is a great way to see how easily. He said that they can wash the lies. Everyone knows what happened at the debate. What do they do now that they know he is responsible for everything? Then they put him on an ABC morning show, which I think is in the entertainment department, so he could spread more lies. For someone like David Muir, who is responsible and sensitive, these responses and statements were very upsetting. For him, even telling people sad news is a heavy emotional burden. For example, David Muir was almost in tears as he wrote about a terrible school shooting in Texas. ABC News was one of the first to report the terrible event, with David Muir doing the reporting. People on Good Morning America's Instagram account shared the news clip and wrote a lot of sad comments about the accident. There was more bad news today about another school town and people who did nothing to make this happen. And nothing is being done about it, one person wrote. "This is so heartbreaking," said someone else. It was said by a third that it should stop soon. A lone shooter killed 19 children and 2 adults in that terrible event. The 18-year-old suspect opened fire at Uvalde's Robb Elementary School, which was full of kids ages 7 to 10. the teenager who was suspected had a gun. Investigators say the gun included an AR-15 semi-automatic weapon and high-capacity magazines. Police shot and killed him after his attack. After the event, a lot of famous people spoke out against the pointless crime. Fans came together to support David Muir when he had to do a difficult job away from the ABC offices. This was another touching example of his caring personality. In 2023, the 2020 reporter went to Turkey and Syria to report on the terrible effects of the earthquake, demonstrating his commitment and awareness of tragedies happening around the world. A 7.8 magnitude earthquake hit Turkey and Syria on February 6, 2023. It destroyed hundreds of buildings and killed thousands of people. Over the weekend, David posted on Instagram that he had left for one of the many places in the region that had been destroyed by the disaster. He posted a picture of himself with a sad face, surrounded by piles of trash and rubble, and with a lot of rescue workers in charge of the damaged area. His caption said, "Few words truly describe the scope of this." He asked his friends and followers to help the earthquake victims. David was praised right away by both his friends and his co-workers for keeping them up to date on the sad situation. He was praised by Deborah Roberts, another BC anchor, who said, "Thanks for shining a compassionate and informative light on this tragedy." David, one fan wrote, "David, your reporting is always perfect, true, and kind." The terrible and heartbreaking damage these people are going through is shown by the way you've covered this humanitarian situation during his long and impressive career. David Muir has shown an amazing ability to keep going even when things get hard. This ability continues to inspire millions of people around the world. His rise from being a news reporter in a small town to becoming one of the most trusted writers in America shows not only how talented he is, but also how determined he is to succeed, even when things don't go his way. Muir's story is a strong lesson that being resilient is more than just getting back up after a setback, but also about charging ahead, often against the odds, and finding a way to do well even when things get tough. While Muir was growing up in Syracuse, New York, he faced many difficulties that helped him become strong. From a very young age, he had to deal with self-doubt and confusion, which are common feelings that not many people can get past. He didn't give up when things got hard. Instead, he was able to turn them into important steps toward success. His youth dream of becoming a news anchor seemed far away and almost impossible to reach at times, but he never gave up. He held on tight to that goal and worked hard to reach it, using every setback as a chance to learn something that made him even more determined. In the beginning of his work, Muir faced many setbacks that tested how strong and determined he was. He worked hard during long, hard shifts at night, often giving up sleep and personal time to meet the needs of his job. Even though he was tired, he stayed dedicated to his work because he knew that practicing would pay off in the fullness of time. Muir wrote about tough stories in dangerous places, taking chances that would have scared off many would-be reporters. Each event not only made him want to write more stories, but also stressed how important honesty and bravery are in the field. He also had to deal with tough competition in the broadcasting business, where many experienced reporters were vying for the same coveted jobs. It was very hard for Muir to stand out in a group of such talented people, but he refused to give up. Instead, he saw every problem as a chance to learn and get better, taking the hard lessons that life gave him. Every setback he faced made him more determined to succeed, and it solidified his belief that persistence, dedication, and an unwavering spirit were the keys to success in the pursuit of greatness. The experienced news anchor is strong in areas other than his job. Even though he has a lot going on, he is known for keeping good relationships with family and friends. His friends and family say he is always there for them, whether it's through simple phone calls, family meetings, or big events. This shows that he values his relationships with others just as much as he values his work. His ability to balance these parts of his life well is an inspiration and a lesson that it is not only possible to find balance between our personal and professional lives, but important for health and happiness. Moving forward, David Muir's story is a strong reminder that being weak and being strong often go hand in hand. His promise to share news with kindness and clarity has not changed. The ABC network sticks by its lead anchor and protects his privacy while upholding the high standards of journalism he helped set.